Hello, everyone. So today I have a topic, and I wanted to talk with everybody about this because I do believe a lot of people experience this, and I do believe I can shed some light on it. The topic at hand is when somebody gaslights you, especially somebody close to you, and truth be known, it's very hurtful when you trust somebody and when you talk with somebody and they constantly lie and deny. That can be very hurtful. And I know a lot of people go through this. And it stagnates. It causes unresolved feelings, unresolved hurt. And I just wanted to walk through a couple of reasons why people continuously lie when presented with factual evidence in front of them. For example, let's suppose I say to somebody, this is glitter. It's a jar of glitter. And the person says, no, it's not. Okay, so you're left thinking, well, of course it is. Why are you angry about it? What's the big deal about the glitter? Because somewhere deep in that person's psyche, this glitter means something. We don't know what it means, but that is the reason for gaslighting, lying, denying their way out of it. Several times this has happened to me. One time I was cleaning out a very close relative's personal belongings after they passed away, and someone threw away some old pictures, stuff like that. And the problem was the pictures belonged to somebody else. And they said, why did you throw away the pictures when you were cleaning out the house? My relative carried on this lie and blamed me, said I did it. And that was not true. In fact, while I was there, I even said, I think somebody would want these photos. They're old photos dating back to the 1900s. They're rich with history in our town. They're rich with the infrastructure and the buildings at that time period. Even maybe the historian might like these at the library. And that person said, no, they're trash, they're going in the garbage, and she threw them out. But when it came down to acknowledging or admitting or facing the truth, this relative did what they call rationalizing it. So that means she rejected the evidence. The purpose that serves is a protection mechanism. In other words, she denied doing it. She wouldn't acknowledge doing it. She wouldn't take accountability for her action. Instead of just saying, yeah, I did it. I threw them out. I didn't realize anybody wanted them. She preserved her self-image while throwing me under the bus. The reason it was such a painful ordeal is because we were all grieving. We all lost this loved one. And to be blamed for something like that, yeah, it wasn't fair, it wasn't right, and it hurt my feelings. But the problem was when I said, no, you threw them out. I was sitting right there. I begged you to keep them, and you said no, and you threw the whole mess of them in the garbage and then took the garbage to the curb. She buckled down her lie, and she came back at me, and she said, no, I didn't do that. You did it. And I couldn't believe it. But confirmation bias occurs when the truth is painful or threatening. And she buckled down her lie to make it fit her narrative, because now she's told two lies. She said she did not do it, and she said I did. Therefore, that's two lies. And she protected her self-image while trying to pass the buck onto me. Now, what would cause a person to buckle down on the lie and keep throwing me under the bus instead of just coming clean and saying, hey, I did it. I'm sorry. I lied. Yeah, I did it. So if they feel that the issue is pressed, they're going to feel attacked, even though they did it. And they would be forced to admit they were wrong. But pride forces the person to double down on the denial. So in negotiations, say with a criminal, that's why criminals can sit there in an interview with trained experts and trained police and sound so convincing about their own lie, even though they're lying. The police know it. The police have evidence. The police are showing them the evidence. The reason they double down on the lie, first of all, is pride. But however, and in the case of a criminal, they just don't want to be caught. But when people feel powerless, they reject the notion that they could have done something wrong. So they portray an alternative reality or truth that feels like a sense of control to them. For example, if you're watching television and you see on the news somebody burglarized the Burger King and they stole a bunch of Whoppers, and then the police catch them and they're in the interrogation room at the police station. They're like, no, I didn't steal the Whoppers, but they have ketchup all over their face. The police know they stole the Whoppers. The Whoppers were still in the backseat of the car, the getaway car, and there are wrappers all over the place, and there's ketchup on the guy's face. Heck, there's a pickle on his shoe that fell out from one of those burgers. He's done. He knows he's guilty. He can't get away with it. So he's going to double down. He's going to lie. In that case, it isn't a pride thing. It's, I'm caught and I don't want to go to jail thing. The criminal portrays an alternate truth so that they don't get caught. But come on now, you know the police aren't that dumb. So the criminal in this example doesn't feel powerless as long as they're sticking to that lie. They feel a sense of control from it. So back to the jar of glitter. If you say, hey, Aunt Sue, I have a jar of glitter. And the aunt says, no, you don't. That's not glitter. And you say, well, what is it? This isn't glitter. What is it? And they come out with something else. Maybe they say, well, I didn't know you had that. And they avoid the question or they dance around it. And you're sitting there like, what is the big deal? It's just glitter. And of course, this is a silly example. But when somebody lies about something right in front of their face, like everybody can see it's a jar of glitter, but Aunt Sue, for some reason, isn't telling the truth. She's lying about it. And by the way, I don't really know an Aunt Sue. I'm just making that up. So this is to no offense to anyone named Sue. They're denying it because the alternative reality for them, the truthful one, is uncomfortable because behind it is a lie. This to them represents something else. To you, it's just a jar of glitter. To them, it could represent something nefarious. Now, I'm not talking about glitter here. Let's take a more serious example. Say you find a Snickers bar in your child's backpack and they're diabetic. I'm just using an example. I'm just coming up with anything off the top of my head. So you find a Snickers bar, they're diabetic, they can't have that Snickers bar. Or you have to regulate what they eat because they're diabetic. And they deny and lie. And they tell you, no, I didn't have a Snickers bar. I don't even know how it got in my backpack. Somebody must have snuck it in there. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I think there's a song about that too. It wasn't me. And you know it was them. And they're lying to you. Well, of course they are, because they know you'd be pretty upset. They might get grounded. They're going to at least get a tongue lashing from you because they're not supposed to have that, but yet they do. And it's in their backpack. So they're trying to get away with something that's not good. But it's more than that, because in this case, it could be dangerous to them. And you want to make it clear how much you love them, but at the same time, acknowledge their feelings. And you don't want to try to make a mountain out of a molehill, but you have to provide clarity to them for this, because they need to know how much you love them. They need to know how much danger they could be in if they ate that king-size Snickers bar. And it worries you as a mom or dad. It worries you as a grandparent. So of course, you're going to have that conversation with your child. And let's hope the child doesn't lie. But many times Let's face it, children can get creative when they want to get away with something. The brain chooses comfort, otherwise known as the path of least resistance. So if they think they can get away with telling a fib, oh, it wasn't my candy bar, somebody at school must have stuck it in there and they didn't know I was diabetic. They're going to do that so they don't get the tongue lashing, they don't get the scolding, they don't get the nagging, because they know better. They know they're guilty. But that's what they're going to do. And as a parent, you're saying, hey, look, pal, this could really cause damage to you. This is harmful. I'm just looking out for you. I love you so much. And that is the explanation of to why people lie, don't take accountability for their actions, double down even when presented with evidence, and continue to lie even after they're presented with tangible facts, tangible evidence. Even when presented with that jar of glitter, even when presented with the ketchup smear in the back seat loaded with the wrappers, and burgers still warm in the back seat, and a pickle on their shoe, and a candy bar in a backpack, they're doubling down the lie. And it is super frustrating. You know, a lot of times things happen and we don't understand it. We don't have a reason for it. We can't make sense of it. But I think if you know why, it softens the blow. It doesn't excuse the behavior because you know it's not you. It's a protective mechanism, and they're doing it maybe out of humiliation, maybe out of fear, maybe out of, oh no, I'm caught, maybe out of not wanting to go to prison, maybe out of not wanting to say, you're right, I did go to the craft store and spend a whole bunch of money and not want to tell anybody that they did that because they're not supposed to be. Maybe they're on a budget. You know what I'm saying? So my advice is when this happens, because I do believe this happens to everybody. I don't think anybody is exempt from somebody lying to them. When this happens, I think the best approach is to show your concern first and foremost. Keep your voice soft. Don't yell. Don't accuse. Don't interrogate. Unless you're a cop and there's a Burger King Whopper thief in your interrogation room. That's different. But if it's your Aunt Sue, if it's your child with a candy bar in their backpack, approach it with concern. They're still going to lie. You know, they might not ever come clean with it. They're still going to lie. But I think it gives them a sense of, okay, I'm going to lie my way out of this, but she didn't yell at me. She wasn't that upset with me. Okay, I'm still going to lie my way out of this though. But I think when you entangle yourself with somebody telling lies and they resort to twisting it around or gaslighting or doubling down the lie, like in the case of the old family photos, I think the most important thing to note is, in the big scheme of life, what is important to you? If this is somebody who is a habitual liar in your life, you may want to limit your exposure to them, because you don't want to be always accused of doing something that they did. So that's one avenue. Or if it's a child, your child, maybe perhaps share or offer an alternative to that candy bar they want so badly. I know there are so many different ways kids can eat today and still get, you know, something sweet, but, you know, healthier. Or in the case of a loved one who won't take accountability for their lies and actions and it's hurting you, my approach would be to talk to the person and say, hey, this is hurting me. I know what you did and I'm not okay with it, but I'm willing to work it out. In my case with my aunt, I don't really see her that much anymore. At one time we were super close. But that doesn't mean I love her any less. That doesn't mean I haven't forgiven her or hold that against her. It just means now I kind of protect myself so that I'm not in a situation with her where she can spread a false narrative about me when she was the one doing the dirty act of throwing out the old family photos. Look at it at the lens of life is too short to hold grudges, especially with people we love so much. And I could not imagine never speaking to my aunt again over this. It happened. It was in the past. I let it go. It's not worth it to never speak to her again because she threw away some old photos and then blamed me. You don't want to make ripples in the ocean when the sea is calm. Just enjoy the calmness. And that's my point here today. There are so many challenges in life we face. If this is a big, huge issue and it's a big ordeal and it really affects your life in a tremendous, catastrophic way, then my answer would be different. But if it's something about minor lying, or it's something about they lied about going to the craft store and buying more glitter, or they lied about the candy bar, where it came from, or why they had it in the first place in their backpack, whatever. Life is so short. Life is too short to spend time being angry over simple things. I'm not saying forget it, but I'm saying move on from it. And I'm saying keep it in the back of your head that, okay, this person might try this again someday, but nevertheless, it's not worth deteriorating our relationship over. Thank you so much for watching today. Take care.